All right, so just so everyone is aware, this program is being recorded, so you can share it with your colleagues, neighbors, other individuals who are not able to join us for tonight's program. First, I want to say good evening and thank you all for being a part of this community meeting. We're here because we want to make sure you all are informed about the SCMAGLEV, which is an abbreviation for the Superconducting Magnetic Levitation Project. This is designed to give you just a brief overview of what that project is and the impacts to our communities and some of the surrounding communities. So that's the first item on our agenda. After we have that overview, we also want to share with you the process for sharing your feedback, especially in the case of getting it in before the upcoming deadline, which we'll talk more about later in the program, which is May 24th. And so I am joined by two of our community activists today, Kathy Bartolomeo, whose last name I absolutely love saying. Kathy has been very engaged in advocacy against the SC Maglev, along with my fellow Bladensburg resident, Ms. Susan McCutcheon. So virtual round of applause to both of you for joining tonight, and not just for being here tonight, but for being there over the years, really advocating along with so many against this project for several years. So again, the agenda for tonight is just a quick overview to share information about the project, and then we want to move into how you can vocalize your feedback about this project. We are opposed. We're not going to be shy about saying that. We're opposed to this project. And so we're hoping that you will join us in sharing feedback about your concerns to your communities, your homes, whether it's your churches or places of worship in Bladensburg, the local parks, our school system. There's a number of places that are impacted by the project. So Susan, before I turn things over to you, I just want to again, thank our VIPs who are attending the call tonight, which is all of you. All of you are my VIPs. So round of applause. Thank you for signing in at 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening. So with that, I am going to turn the reins over to Ms. Susan McCutcheon to walk us through what the Maglev is. So over to you, Ms. McCutcheon.
So I'll go ahead and start then. This is a virtual Town of Bladensburg meeting. It's about the Maglev high-speed train, the impacts. It's an overview of the impacts, and then action resources. Contained in the presentation will be a slide that shows you who you contact for commenting, links, and other things that will be helpful for commenting. And this is a combination of slides. We've been doing a lot of presentations, the Maryland Coalition for Responsible Transit, and Citizens Against SCMAGLEV, and we're putting together comments the two groups. We've combined our comments, and there are a lot of comments on the draft environmental impact statement, you can imagine. Next slide, please. Now, what is the SCMAGLEV? It's a Baltimore-Washington superconducting magnetic, oh Lord, wouldn't you know? Nobody ever calls me, right? I apologize. I apologize. No one ever calls me, honestly. So anyway, the Baltimore-Washington Superconducting Magnetic Levitation Project, or SCMAGLEV, or Maglev for short. You'll see it in a lot of different iterations, capitalized or not, or whatever. It's a train that would operate by hovering above metal tracks using a levitation system powered by magnets. So it's hovering, remember, not on just steel wheel tracks, so it's rolling on a track. The train would reach over 300 miles per hour to carry passengers between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., and it's claimed as the ride on the train is the 15 minutes, get to start and then end about 15 minutes. Next slide, please. Now, this is a picture of an SCMAGLEV, and you see the train part and then the guideway and the runway surface, so you can see it hovers above. It's not rolling on a track. Next slide, please. Now, what the SCMAGLEV is not. It is not designed to serve local commuters. And you can see why, because it starts in Baltimore and ends up in Washington, or starts in Washington, ends up in Baltimore with a stop at the airport. Because there are 3 passenger stations, that's all, no local stops. The pricing would be similar to the Amtrak Acela, about $80, and that is a one-way trip. And it will not remove local commuter traffic from the roads. And it's not a green project because it's such high electricity, and its power consumption is really great, as you can imagine that would be required to have this magnetic system. The next slide, please. Now this is the route. It's 40 miles and 70% are underground tunnels. You catch the train in Mount Vernon Station in DC and deep tunnel through Ward 5 to Maryland. You can see the stops. You can look more closely when you have a chance to examine it. And it will tunnel under the Anacostia River at the Bladensburg Waterfront Park and surface at the Greenbelt Forest Preserve. The portion passing the Beltway Agricultural Research Center and along the BW Parkway and the Patuxent Research Refuge would be above ground on viaducts, and it would come under, so it will come under and then zip up at that area. And it will deep tunnel to the stop at the BWI airport and on the Cherry Hill final station. Now keep in mind that there are 2 alternative routes that they're talking about. So the draft environmental impact statement is looking at all these possibilities. So you can see on this map that there are build alternatives, J1, J2, J3, and it says BARC West, TMF, BARC Airstrip, Maryland 198. A TMF is a train maintenance facility, and that is the big place where the trains are parked, basically. So there are different options depending on what they would choose. And you can see where the deep tunneling is. So it really is going to affect a lot of green area when it's coming up, and at any rate, whichever alternative they choose. The next slide, please. The project infrastructure is vast. It has magnetized rails, and these are in deep tunnels. It's close to 35 feet to foundations, say of your houses or businesses, etc., schools. There are going to be staging areas that will be different equipment, that kind of thing, both permanent and temporary. There are going to be a lot of service buildings, parking lots, access roads, including the around Peace Cross, access roads cutting across because they're digging and moving the dirt. So there are going to be trucks back and forth and back and forth. New power substations, 7 acres each. So imagine that, 7 acres. Train maintenance facility, 200 plus acres. One of those locations I mentioned previously. And fresh air emergency egress, where I'm saying is FAEE is the acronym. 9 of them, 3 plus 10 acres each. Now, one is going to be it's near Lloyd Street, Bladensburg, near Bladensburg Waterfront Park. And it's a 5-story ventilation building that they're going to have there. So that is a big site. On the other side, we have an industrial park, and then we would have this huge facility. Next slide, please. This is the picture of a high-speed train. This is in China, but it's an existing maintenance yard for a high-speed train. This is what, when we're talking about the train maintenance facility, this is what we're talking about. This is coming of the Beltway Agricultural Research Center in that area. No vegetation and all impervious surfaces. So this is an idea of what this would look like if it would come to pass. Next slide, please. This is the typical tunnel and viaduct sections graphic. You can see that the tunnel section would run between 80 to 150 feet underground as measured from the top of the guideway. The elevated sections would be up to 150 feet above the travel lanes of the Baltimore-Washington Parkway, and I'll show you a picture in a minute. It would require 70-foot rights of way, and that would be 50 feet above treetop level. So this is and looking at the viaduct, it's a big construction project. Next slide, please. This is the picture, the viaduct, a rendering, the viaduct at BW Parkway and Powder Mill Road. So this is exit for the National Wildlife Visitor Center at Patuxent Research Refuge and Bark. And the tracks tower over the trees. You can take a picture. It looks pretty and it's a nice graphic, but think about that, what that will look like, what this area will look like. And there will be a lot of noise and wind associated with that. Next slide, please. Now, this is what I mentioned. There will be several of these. One near Lloyd Street at Bladensburg, in the area of Bladensburg Waterfront Park. It's a fresh air emergency egress. The above ground height is 40 to 50 feet tall, so it's a 5-story building. So this is what we could expect to see built. Underground shaft, the depth would vary with the terrain between 80 to 150 feet or 8 to 15 stories. So this would be underground. And this is the sources in the draft environmental impact statement. So this is their rendering. Next slide, please. This is a rendering of the FAEE near the Anacostia. So you can see there where the Bladensburg Waterfront Park is and where the FAEE marked designated in yellow, in that area is located. So, and then there's the tunnel coming through. So you can see where this would be in our area, and it's one of a few that would be along the way, would be along with the proposed route. Another is like Martin's Woods. I think I have another slide that says that. But you can see where how this is a big facility, and it will certainly have a big footprint in our area. Next slide, please. Now, our research for the organization I mentioned, Maryland Coalition for Responsible Transit and the Citizens Against the SCMAGLEV, we've been doing research for years on this. Crashworthiness and other safety concerns, greenhouse gas emission, road congestion, environmental and ecological impacts, the Beltway Agricultural Research Center, Patuxent Research Refuge, environmental justice issues, that's a huge issue, water and Chesapeake Bay impacts, municipal and community impacts. And I know Mayor James has spoken quite often on those issues related to this other research. Health concerns because of the potential carcinogens, et cetera, which is why, of course, they need fresh air and emergency egress. You have to be able to come out, but should there be a fire or something like that, and the carcinogens are ventilated, they're going to be ventilated out from these ventilation facilities into the atmosphere around their location. And then we're looking at Amtrak and MARC as better alternatives, as you know, with the new, especially with the new Biden program. Amtrak is getting a lot of funding and they have been making a lot of improvements, Amtrak and MARC, and funding is going into that area to build it up for our true mass transit. And then finally, there are a lot of claims and promises we've been looking into, a lot of gaps and misleading information in the draft environmental impact statement. Next slide, please. Now, I'm not going to read all the words here. I'm just letting you know its construction is estimated to be 7 years. 3/4 of those years in our area, the construction would be in our area. It will cause increased traffic, noise, and vibration 24/7. Dust and exhaust. I know people concerned about dust and that kind of thing is the pollution that is high in our area, which is, documented in the county, but this is adding to it. The staging area, one of the staging areas is going to be Old Landover Mall and Conterra. And in fact, in Conterra, they're going to remove some houses. Prince George's County neighborhoods, you can see a lot there. But for us, Comar Manor, Bladensburg, Woodlawn, Landover, New Carrollton, moving into Greenbelt and other areas. So it definitely affects our area. And at Comar Manor, the train tunnels under a landfill. And Mayor could maybe speak something to that afterward, because there are actually 4, I think you said, Mayor James, there were 4 landfills in that area. And the Anacostia River, which is a state designated scenic river, and there are 8 parks along the tunnel and the viaduct route, 8 parks, okay? And they're going to be federal properties. You can see that, you'll be able to see the list there. And a number of schools will have the train tunnel directly under their campuses, including Elizabeth Seton and Eleanor Roosevelt high schools, Robert Frost and Lamont Elementary, and Spellman is spelled wrong, I apologize, Spellman overpass, which is a debatable question. And then County Executive Angela Also Brooks and Prince George's County Council are going to have said they voted to write a letter to oppose, to support the no build option, and as many municipalities are doing and considering. So there is a momentum for support at the elected official level. Next slide, please. And in summary, many questions and concerns with the maglev. Safety and crashworthiness of the train. They indicate, the advertisement is that this is a proven technology, but it is not. It has never run in a commercial way, not even in Japan, even though it is in Japan. It's not a commercial endeavor. And so it is a new technology that should be judged by rules of particular applicability because it is unique. This is something required from the Federal Railroad Administration. This has not been done, and the commenting in the draft environmental impact statement say, we'll get to that later on. So we'll figure out later on if this is safe, but the studies have not been done, even though it has been promoted that way. It is, as far as greenhouse gases, it's unlikely the building and operating the SCMAGLEV is going to reduce greenhouse gases. And in Japan, a report from Japan states that the maglev uses up to 5 times more energy as a high-speed steel-wheel train. So it would have, the building of this would have extreme destructive impact on our environment, and the wildlife preserves and plant research areas left on the East Coast, and it's very rare species, and the research go on in those areas. The impact on communities is extreme. Loss of property value, dangerous emissions into the communities, exposure to electromagnetic radiation, pollution to streams and waterways, storm water runoff with pollutants, and an increase in invasive plants and vermin. So all those effects of the digging and the various gases and potential carcinogen issues. And now, as we said, they're continuing to upgrade and enhance Amtrak, MARC, and VRE, and these are better alternatives. And in the end, we will pay. The bottom line is the taxpayers will pay. Anything of this huge endeavor is overrun. Their cost overruns, and even though it says a private company with funding from Japan, they're going to run it. They already have used federal dollars to study it. They have asked at a recent U.S. House hearing, they were asking a transportation hearing, 300, I forgot the figure, but a huge amount of money to help support the maglev, even though they say they don't need any money. But they requested this of this House committee, along with others who were fighting for their transportation projects. And the claim of jobs and the cost levels will likely not be realized. If it follows the history of other such projects, you can expect fewer jobs in total, and most of them will be short-term construction, the net loss of high-paying jobs, and the likely tax dollar funded cost overruns because of the building and scheduling delays. I mean, we all know about the Purple Line. Look at that, it's huge. And even though this is not a public-private partnership, it would end up functioning in basically the same way when and I'm saying when, it would need to be bailed out because of the huge costs. Next slide, please. And now what can you do? This is a call for action. This document will we send out to everybody. The draft environmental impact statement is available for review and comment, and here is the link to it. And the comment period is open until May 24th. So you can write your concerns and your opposition for the record by email, letter, and web form according to the instructions, and there is the link to there. That page has the draft environmental impact statement, and when you scroll down, there's a comment place so that you could put your comments in. Now, there are links to resources here to get information. This shows you to whom you send you can write a letter as well. You could do it online, and where you can find more information to help you put together the kind of comment, the comment you would like to, in addition to some documents we will have for you that you can use as samples. Next slide, please. So make your voices heard. We are available to discuss the long list of reasons why the SC Maglev should not be built. And these are, again, are links for additional information. The MCRT is a nonprofit, and Citizens Against the SC Maglev is an organization that I've been with for some time, that started from Bowie when the project was started to be talked about in 2016. So that is our, I think that's the last slide. No, two more things in this you want to look at. The next slide. This is what you stand to lose, where they're going. The attitude is that we'll only take a portion of it, but think about your body. If someone said to you, you'll be healthy and okay, we're only going to take your arm. Is that a problem? Well, yeah, that's a problem. And you're going to upset the whole ecosystem if you dig under, or if you cut across this section of the Patuxent Research Refuge and Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, which is where these species, et cetera, and researchers from all over the world come. Next slide. And finally, you don't want to lose some of the scenery. And look, the fact is, we already have an area where we have traffic, we have other things there, but this area is going to be affected with this if this happens one way or the other. They plan to have a ventilation station in the area, in this area, and it's something that we don't want to lose. Many people, it's not just for us, people from all over come. Plus there are concerns about our historic and other areas, historic sites, and those are some of the comments that we are making, that they have not considered the vibrations and other effects to the historic park that is across the waterfront park at Peace Cross. So that is the end of this presentation.
Thank you,
Okay.
Susan, for the brief overview. It's hard to share just the highlights of this project in a succinct manner, but I appreciate you doing that just to get everyone on the same knowledge base. I know some may be more involved in advocacy efforts than others. And so again, as was stated previously, we just wanted to kind of give a quick overview of what the project is for those who haven't been able to see some of the prior town halls or participate in some of the other meetings that have been held before COVID, when we were actually able to assemble in person. And so I want to turn it over to Kathy. And Kathy, did you want to add anything to what Susan shared with us? Because I know you've been on these types of programs with us as well.
Sure. And Kathy, if you would talk about what you're doing with, especially like the door hangers and you're in a lot of things that you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wanted to also maybe remind you that the video that Susan was going to share at the beginning, maybe the mayor might be able to put it through on her end.
So we tried, Kathy. The audio wasn't cooperating, even though when I tested it, it worked perfectly. So what we'll do is when we follow up with everyone afterwards, we'll share the link to that, because I think that was really impactful. I can try one more time before we end, just to see if we can work out the kinks. But I think that in their own words, hearing people from the community and seeing them at various places around Prince George's County will definitely resonate well with our folks who are on tonight. So I'll give it one more go at the end.
Okay, thanks. I was going to point out one thing that BWR has been saying for years. We don't need any money from the taxpayers. We don't need any help. We'll be able to do this with our ridership, although the ridership report is very sketchy. We don't believe that their ridership will support it. But Wayne Rogers came out at a meeting last week at a House hearing with other people, Amtrak and legislators asking questions. And near the end, he said that he would like $300 million from the feds. So now they have changed their tune. So they are realizing they're going to need money. And if that's true, then where does it end? So what I've done in the past number of months, we've distributed 10,000 door hangers up and down the BW Parkway in communities like Beacon Heights, Greenbelt, Maryland City, in Anne Arundel, Shipley in Anne Arundel, Lithicum, and closer down, Bladensburg. And now we've also done another set, 2,500 in Maryland City to prepare them for Senator Pam Bytle's talk to community on the impact to Maryland City. And we've had a rally in Greenbelt where we talked about, we had legislators come out, Senator Penske came out, and delegates came out and talked in the city council, explaining how the Spelman overpass, which connects one part of GHI Old Greenbelt to the apartments in Roosevelt, and that looks like it may be taken down, which would impact people getting to appointments, and it's in a minority area, low income area. And then right before the rally, BWR came out and said, oh no, we're not going to take that. We're not going to take it down. So again, we can't believe what they're saying, that they heard that we were having a rally. So, because we were pushing the press. And so that's another reason not to believe that BWR. And right now we're doing a lot of petitions and letters. I'll be going to Maryland City this weekend to give out letters where people can sign and make comments for the DEIS. And the DEIS is ending on May 24th. So if you mail it, you want to mail it quickly, beginning of next week maybe, because the mail's been slow, and or email. And you can comment like on one issue many times. You can comment as many times you want. Not a long letter. You can say, well, I oppose it because of the Spelman Bridge might be taken down. And then write another one saying, email again, saying, I'm concerned about the impact to the Bladensburg Waterfront. So make many points as possible, because the number of comments does matter to help our position.
I would add on to that, Kathy, as I said, I've sent 13 comments on different specific issues. It's not, and I have some documents. We have a commenting document, and we have a bulleted document we want to pull up. Do you have that, the one that says that the link to a pin to that document? Do you have
So
that
if
there?
you, yes, so I will move us along before we get into the commenting, because that's the final
Right.
section before we try to take a few
Oh, I
questions,
apologize.
depending
Sure.
on time. That's okay. We did want to just take a step back, because that deadline of May 24th was shared in Susan's presentation, and I know Kathy just mentioned that as well. But again, we don't want to be rude and just assume everybody knows where we are with this point in time on the project. And so wanted to just help you all understand, this has been in the works for many, many years. So the Federal Railroad Administration awarded Maryland's Department of Transportation $27.8 million in a grant, and that was to prepare an environmental impact study for this project. And so MDOT is currently evaluating the potential impacts of not just constructing, but operating this project. And so the SCMAGLEV, as was stated before, the current path is Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. What's being left out of the discussion is that the goal of this project is to connect all the airports along the East Coast. So ultimately, the goal is to get this up to Boston. And so they're using us as guinea pigs without any sort of commitment with states that
the
are
way to
along the
Boston.
rest
They're
of
just
this.
using this
I'm
area
sorry.
to go
Can
to the.
someone please mute? We're getting some background noise.
Rochelle, yeah.
Sorry. Let me see if okay, sorry about that. But the goal that's not being stated to the public is that the end game is getting this connected through Boston. And the idea is to connect the airports ultimately. But the challenge and one of the issues that we have as opposition to this project is why should Maryland be the guinea pig for this? And let's say we support it, but then Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts all turn it down. Is it really going to be valuable to have a 15-minute trip back and forth to Baltimore looking long term? And then in addition to that, looking at what occurred due to the pandemic with so many local transportation routes, or not even routes, but methods being impacted from Metro, we saw ridership it plummeted. Same thing with use of taxi cabs and Ubers and Lyfts and you name it. So transportation is one of those things where if a major economic downturn occurs, there is a financial impact to the existing railways, to VRE. They took significant hits last year, and our local train system, the MARC train as well. And so rather than taking funds and beefing up those efforts, making them more robust, rather than investing in more bikes along local cities, knowing that people prefer to have shorter commutes, they prefer to be able to bike to work, jog to work, have other means, even using scooters and things. Why do we need to spend this level of funding on this? I call it a pipe dream. Why do we need to do that? But again, just in understanding the process, money has already been awarded. And that is why the environmental impact study or statement is out right now. So the DEIS was released in January of this year. And we were told by the project developers, they wanted a very transparent process. So they wanted comments in like 45 days or something ridiculous, 60 days. We had to advocate to our congressmen, US senators to get that extended. And that is why the deadline is now May 24th. If they're so for the community, I can't understand why this developer was so adamant about rushing this forward. But here we are approaching this deadline of May 24th, which is why we're here today, because we've been doing a number of these town halls, but we still need your help in informing your neighbors, informing the kids, parents who play with your children when you're at the park, anyone who is in this community. As you looked at that map that Ms. McCutcheon had up there, we need your help informing them about that. And as she said, making your comments known, not just to us, but putting it in writing. And so we want to shift to that portion of the conversation where we step you through how simple or how complicated it can be to comment. Most people feel that it's intimidating. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the legalese to submit comments, but you can make them as simple or as complicated as you want your comments to be. And that's where we really want to hone this next piece of the conversation too. So Ms. McCutcheon, I'm going to turn it back over to you to step us through that.
Okay. We will email, there's something I just saw in the chat. Yes, we'll email all the documents and the presentation to everybody. In fact, more widely, we can share them more widely beyond just who's on this call. Well, I think first of all, I would start with let me start with the how to, there's the one how to comment. Did you want to bring that up, or shall I try sharing again?
Let me try to bring it up.
And this is a document we have in English and Spanish. That's the basic steps of how you comment.
Okay, let me just make sure this is the right one. English DEIS comment submission. Is that the right one?
No, those are samples. We just want
Okay,
the one
so let me
about how
keep
to.
scrolling.
Right.
I think I opened the Spanish one. So let me turn it over to you and see if you can.
See if let me go ahead and get, okay, I've got it here. So I'll share, let me,
Sure.
yeah,
Let me switch it back to you to presenter.
All right, let's see if I can, this one shouldn't have a problem with the slide part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to share, and I want to share here.
All right.
So this is the document. It's in English and Spanish. And you can see its background. And this is for oral comments as well. So if you're giving oral comments, if there's any testimony, it's past the period where they're taking the verbal testimony, but it applies to the same. You're basically your public comments are critical. Everyone do it from your standpoint. We'll give some templates, samples of what you could say, but just say, my name is whatever your name is. I live wherever I live. And I have, first of all, what we want you to say, what we believe you should say is, I support the no build option. So that's the first thing. And this is why I live here and it's affecting the waterfront, like as Kathy said, or I'm concerned about the wildlife at Bark, or I'm concerned about whatever you want to say that it's doing. So as you scroll down, you see the information. It's in English and then going to Spanish. And the key phrase to include, as I said, is the statement, I oppose this project and support the no build option. And as you scroll down further, I'm trying to do it with my cursor, but I don't have, that didn't work, did it? And you remember to request the MTA report your comments in the final EIS, which means environmental impact statement. So if they don't, there can be consequences. So you basically ask them to just ask that they report them. And then it tells you the date. And then then you can see, you can email written comments, and you see the email is really great if you can do it by email, but you can also write, and it indicates to whom. And as you scroll down, you can see, basically look this over. And these are additional tips. State your name, address, and proximity to the project. Provide your occupation and background if you have some expertise, because a lot of I was going to emphasize, the people, the grassroots activists are all volunteers. And I will say, and I'm going to great compliment to Kathy, these door hangers, she's paid for them. Okay. She has put out of her pocket. She's done a lot. And people have volunteered to distribute them, including the Prince George's County Young Democrats and other groups. And so a lot of people putting a lot of volunteer time. And the only thing we've had extra, where we've had some extra, and we do hope to do some in kind to repay her, but is by donations for the MCRT. So just so you know, this is not funded, as opposed to the Northeast Maglev. Kathy mentioned Wayne Rogers. He's the CEO of Northeast Maglev. And that's why he is like really the sister organization, huge organization connected with the Baltimore-Washington Rapid Rail, which is the designated project sponsor private company. And so here it explains, you say indicate if your input is burdened by other environmental impacts. We mentioned environmental justice. Our area, and we have a lot of information that about our area, the percentages it's a majority minority area, and also income. So you can explain how it will affect you, to describe how it will be a financial burden, your homes. Or there's also in the blast about this meeting, there's a link that you can go to and see, put your address in and find out how does this come, where would they potentially come near your home. Now, I know in Spring Road, it comes not on my block, but parallel to it, but it does cross under some homes on Spring Road, for example. So at that link, go back to the announcement for this meeting, and you can just link to see where your home is that's that way. And then now it says on here to send a copy of comments to your federal officials, etc. I would at this point, just get your comments in. But if you do send an email, I also provided a document that indicates the people in our district. It indicates how you send that comment to Senators Cardin and Van Hollen and to Representative Anthony Brown. So there's a document where you can look and see what who your representatives are. And for most of them, except for the senators and the representative, it's an email. So you can add that as a CC or a BCC in an email. But really just think about getting your comments in. As they say, submit them often, but on different topics. And the more, the better. So this was a document we'll send you, and it's also in Spanish. So that's that document. And then And Mayor James, there is the link to the, if you go to the Stop This Train website link that I gave you.
To the opposition points?
Yes.
Okay, let me bring that back up.
So I know many of you wonder about, well, where do I start? You can say what you feel and whatever, but where do I start? I need something to generate my thoughts about what to say. And this is a searchable, this is a document we have been working on. It's searchable. As Mayor James is scrolling down, you'll see, this is regularly updated with any new points. If you go to, you see a section, you see all the topics: construction issues, cultural issues, ecological and biological. And if you go to, if you're in the menu, click on one of those topics.
So I clicked on ecological and
I know,
biological,
you just did it fast. There you go.
Yep.
You were so quick. See, you can see here, you can say, this is what I'm interested in. Okay, now let's look at these issues. What's most, and you can see arguments, and you can say, hey, that concerns me. All right, for example, number 4, USGS wildlife research isn't even mentioned. Oh, it doesn't even mention this. I'm concerned that you didn't even mention, what about the wildlife? What about no lists of plant or animal species? This is a concern. So, or if you click on another topic, environmental justice, Mayor James, if you might go back up to that one. And this at the beginning too also gives the key players. There should be a section on environmental justice. There we go. All right, here we are. And this is what the concern I said before: noise and vibration impacts missing from the DEIS. And that's certainly, sorry, the construction issues. And now at the crossroads there at Peace Cross, we already have trucks. We already have all that traffic. They will build, and they've stated this, ingress and egress roads because of the tunneling and having to get rid of the dirt and that kind of thing, and bring in equipment 24/7, trucks, etc., hauling, etc., with all the traffic that's already there. And these roads, they indicated in their final alternatives report, may or may not be temporary. So if they continue, they are there, look at all the roads that crisscross Route 1, everything coming in, it could be a nightmare. So if you scroll down, you can see the majority will be in EJ population areas. So you can see our different arguments for why there are concerns. And then you'd be federally owned land. You can click on whatever you want, and you can search and find some arguments to start as your basis. Or you can just write what you want to write and say, hey, I'm really concerned, about whatever particular issue. It doesn't have to be another one, but this will help boost it a little bit and give you some food for thought about what you might want to add.
And just to tag on to the first bullet under environmental justice, I know it's not noted specifically here, but it's in another part of the document. For our residents, if you do submit something about this area being a concern to you, vibration impacts on the foundation for your home or other structures, I'm begging you, please also include with that concern our historical properties that are located in the town of Bladensburg. The Bostwick House was built in the 1700s. We've got the Market Master's House, the George Washington House, and then the Historical Baptist Church, which I think was in some ways affiliated with the Underground Railroad as well. So there are historical assets in Bladensburg, I'm sure in Colmar Manor, Cottage City, Edmonston, other communities along the way. Yep, and Hillary Magruder House as well. Thank you, Councilmember Bowles. So if we're concerned about our structures that might have been built in 1950 or 2000, just imagine what those sort of impacts could do to a structure that was built in the 1700s. We have to vocalize those kinds of concerns. And then Ms. McCutcheon, oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, there was also a question, I want to say that was from Councilmember Rout that popped up about submitting comments. Can you read that? I only can see them when I pop up because I'm sharing the screen and then they go away.
Okay. Well, actually, would she maybe just ask the question if you'd like? Just, maybe hit the mic. Just go ahead and ask your question too, if I have to.
Yes, good evening. I just wanted
Hi.
to, Miss Nalia, she answered my question. So it sounds like there's a lot of different, um, topics. So are you highly recommending we just submit a brief, opposition or whatever for each of the topics? So that's like more than
Sure.
26, because the more the merrier. So I
That's
just
right.
wanted to just hone in on that, just so I made sure I heard what that, but it sounds
That's
like
right.
that's what I heard.
Yes, and in fact, Mayor James, you could close this one and go to the English, the one that says English, English DEIS comment submission. And that
Sure.
will
And
show exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
Okay.
so give me a
Councilmember Rao.
moment and I'll have that back up so you all can
Yes, yeah,
see
you can
it.
get any topic you're interested in. And now I see a question, would creating a petition on change.org? Yes, we have a petition that is, I don't know, is the petition in the blast? We can send you the petition link that we have out there, and Kathy, do you have that handy, the link for the petition? Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. It's so hard to do it while you're trying to watch it. Okay, now for this document, you can see here, if you go to the first one, these are some different options that should show you what to do here. You go to the first page of it. There are 5 examples. You can see here, if it's, you go to the top, is this example 1, it says at the top of it what it is, the example, the name of it. There. This is general observations, okay? For example, you say who you are, you join with your neighbors, no build. Now, this is environmental, safety and crashworthiness, electromagnetic, environmental, Amtrak, VRE. This is a kind of a complete picture of a lot of the things that we're concerned about. Now, if you go to the next example, that becomes a specific one. And you see, this is not that long. It's just, okay, this is safety and crashworthiness. These are some of our arguments about it not being safe, and about how it's not being certified as safe, that it's a unique one. And again, we put the point of, you can add other points as you do it, just say, and money is better spent on something else. You see the next one is on, I'm trying to remember which is next, environment and the ecological, and you can see some of those. So you can start from there, add other points, and add anything you would like to. And each of these 5 here could be a separate submission. Now, with the list of, you don't need to pull it up, but with the list of all your federal official contacts, at the least, I would say, copy or send your comment that you do, copy it and send it to the page that each of that Senator Cardin and Senator Van Hollen and Representative Brown have. You have to put their comments, on a page so that their staff look at those comments. So this, you can say, I submitted this, and boom, I submitted this on their pages. Those links are in that document. And also, I don't know if we have any Spanish speakers here now. You could close, but this is an example exactly along the lines of what you said, Councilmember Rout and everybody. These are some samples to help you out. And you see, if you did this as a letter, you can grab that and do as a letter because you have the address here. You can mail it as a letter, or you can grab the content of it and put it in on the link as for comments.
And the nice thing is this can be complemented with the resource we were just looking at on the MCRT, or sorry, Stop the Maglev website,
it's on
because
both.
you can pull that language from the various sections if you need help just kind of getting your thoughts going and typing it from there. So again, those are volunteers who spent hours and hours and hours putting that document together, and still, as Susan was saying, editing as we go and as they learn more information. So I definitely recommend using that resource, and we'll push everything back out after this as a follow-up. I'll see about getting the blast out, a follow-up e-blast with all of these resources, because we want to make it easy for you all. I don't want you all to walk away, Councilmember Rao, to say, it's too much, Keisha, I can't do this. I don't have time for this. As we said before, it can be a simple 1 letter addressing broad concerns, or if you have the time and want to exercise those creative writing skills and hone in on specific sections, we welcome that too. The petition that was just referenced, we'll share that link as well, because that's another way to advocate, but don't do that in place of this.
No.
Please do both. This is the high priority right now. So please do this first.
Mayor James, if you would bring up the document that says, it's just the one page, the HO, it says what you can do, and it summarizes it, so they'll see that will be an attachment. It's from basically from the slide set, basically, as a reminder. And I would say, you know, I spoke with someone from Delegate Valentino Smith's office this morning, and she said, it's pretty amazing that this organization, that our group has, and this is in English and Spanish, and so this is telling you some of the same summarizing, that you have them on their heels. You know, they have tons of money, and they are advertising. They have a petition. Our petition can do something, and what we will do is, the more of you that sign it, we'll report the numbers as part of our submission to the draft environmental impact statement. So we'll say we had 500 or however many people, because the Baltimore-Washington Rapid Rail and Northeast Maglev are putting out huge numbers, but what they have a lot of money, PR people putting out ads, and they have thousands and thousands of people signing. But as Mayor James said, they're advertising it to New York. Say it's a fast train, we could go to New York, we can do all this. And a lot of people are signing, but there's no detail in there about it. And our petition says exactly why we are opposing, and we'll present our petition and the number of signatures. So that will be great. You send your friends and neighbors, have them sign the petition, have them do all of those things, because this will also add to the record. And Kathy, check if I'm correct, they have to acknowledge every comment that comes in by the midnight, May 24th. Is that not correct? They have to account for them.
You know, I don't really know. I know that I get emails back saying that they acknowledge I sent something.
And if you one night I sent in five submissions and I had one acknowledgement, but I can understand that. But yes, I think from what I've understood from some of the conversations, they have to acknowledge in their final, and we're asking for supplemental report because there are too many gaps and too many problems, but they have to include the numbers of comments they received, and they will put in categories the kinds of comments they received if submitted by the end of May 24th. You can make comments after that date, but they are not necessarily required to include them as part of their consideration. So that's why it's important to do it by May 24th, to be sure your comments will get in there.
And just one thing that you did touch upon is, as Kathy, I think it was from Delegate Valentino Smith's office stated, we are gaining momentum, because I will tell you, 3 years ago, a small group of mayors started meeting and talking about what we could do to advocate against this. And we realized it's going to take a stop at the federal level. So we would try to set up these meetings, inform them of our concerns. And we got the courtesy, okay, but not that they were really advocating one way or the other, although the wink was they were in favor of it because of the jobs argument. But I will tell you, it has really been encouraging to see the tide turning in terms of the focus on it at the state level. There were a number of hearings Susan, myself, and many others testified on in this last legislative session on the federal level, where we couldn't get commitment one way or the other. Now our federal representatives are starting to understand our position and change their thought process on the matter. The Prince George's County Council has taken a stance against this. Prince George's County Executive Angela also Brooks has taken a strong stance against this. And I believe it was yesterday where they voted to do a joint letter in response to this project to come out with a very strong support of the no build option. Anne Arundel's County Council has taken a strong stance against this. Previously, we attended meetings, this was pre-COVID, organized by the prior president of NAACP, and I will tell you, he was strongly in favor of this project. I don't know if it's okay to share all the details, but I will tell you they're taking another look at this and reconsidering their stance, which is huge. As was stated before, Prince George's County Young Democrats are strongly opposed to this and doing what they can to support. The Prince George's County School Board also took a formal stance against this. I know in the town of Bladensburg, we took a vote initially and put it in writing. This is our position on this, and we've been advocating in that direction ever since. So I don't want you all to feel like, oh, they're just saying this. How do we really know that there's support? No, the tide is changing, and people are starting to notice the opposition. And people who weren't as comfortable speaking out before are becoming more vocal. And on the state level, do want to acknowledge Senator Malcolm Augustine, who sent a notification yesterday. I think that was expressing his opposition. But of course, Delegate Ivy, Councilmember Ivy, several others have been very vocal and supportive of our efforts as well. But I just wanted to highlight that so you all know we do have support and it is growing.
And anyone in the area, Prince George's County Council member Taveras, work on her a little bit because she's kind of undecided, feeling that maybe that this is something that's good. It's going to be useful for the area. So you may want to, if you know, just I know she voted. It was all right. I mean, the vote was what the vote was, but it was a little surprising that she felt this was mass transit, which is really much my issue. Is it's not really mass transit. And Mayor James, if you could just tap, to mention too, the groups you were working with on the transit studies, that would be very interesting to hear for a minute there too, about what they're recommending as useful transit.
Sure. So most cities and towns within this region are part of WashCog, the Washington Metropolitan Council of Governments. And so they take looks at various issues from a regional standpoint. And they released their, I think it was their 2030 vision back some time ago. But one of the things that stood out to me was in the area of transportation, where their focus, and again, this is region-wide focus after doing numerous meetings and studies and getting information, their outcome was they were very much dedicated to focusing on transportation that connects the region and opportunities to make communities more walkable, bikeable, and things of that nature. So moving away from the commuting around the Beltway for an hour and a half Monday through Friday, and really focusing on building efforts that bring communities closer, build connectedness, and understanding that entails a layer of things in order to make that happen. But again, that was adopted by the Washington metropolitan region. So to have this particular project say, we want to build through your communities. We don't want to stop there. We just want to come through there on our way to Baltimore. And oh, by the way, this can be a commuter train for you to the tune of $80 round, each way. It's giving you financial opportunity. You're going to get rich off this thing because you can get a job in Baltimore. But when you look at those numbers and you see the totals, I think when I did the calculations, it was over $20,000 in commuter fees if you looked at Monday through Friday. How is that even reasonable for most of our residents? The answer is it isn't. And going back to the initial statement, how does that build connectedness in communities and smart transportation? It doesn't. There are a number of things that are proven to reduce emissions that focus on the mass movement of people in an efficient way.
Right.
Using buses that are or that utilize electrification, for example. There's so many other things and innovations coming out there. We have so many options. We should not be railroaded into this project.
That's right.
So anyway, no pun intended.
I know.
So,
I was looking at the chat. I wanted to notice, I thank you, Nalaya, Nalaya, is that correct? All right. Nalia?
Nalia.
Okay. Nalia, excuse me, Nalia. You, thank you for submitting your other comments. And yes, they are trying to silence people. If you put something on, they try not to, people have tried to subvert their supportive petition things, and they do. And thank you for doing that. And please send your comments in. And thank you, Council Member Bowles. Is that how you say it? Bowles, excuse me.
Bowles.
Bowles. I'm not speaking good tonight. No, Bowles, sorry, for that resolution. And you should soon be, and please, would you send to me, send it to me, the document? Because
Yes, ma'am. I sent the finalized document to the mayor and to our town administrator today. One of our council members is in Ukraine at the moment.
Okay.
To get it fully executed is going to take a day or two, but then I will forward it as soon as possible. And thank you to everyone. And thank you also, Mayor James, for your response, your email response the other day. You all have been amazingly helpful to raising awareness, and really appreciate your efforts.
And I will give kudos also to Denise Hamler for going out, and I supplied her with, well, Kathy supplied the door hangers, I supplied Denise with them, and she distributed all over. And I know she's been talking to the Comar Manor Council and to the Cottage City, because she's in Cottage City Council. And I know I'm putting in, and we're working to getting you hooked up with speaking more to the city of Greenbelt about the cost sharing for Jill Grant and Associates. That is underway, just so you know, so they can explain more what it's about. But I will mention a word about it. Greenbelt has Jill Grant and Associates law firm, and they're working on the draft environmental impact statement. It will be very detailed statement commenting, and they are focused on they're on all the route, not just the city of Greenbelt, but part of because all the issues affect along the route, but also with input from the councils, just to help bolster it up too. They will be able to be more complete in their experts if they need to hire. Some of our volunteer experts help them, and they're in our meetings. So we're all sharing along the lines of sharing. We're all sharing. We're sharing with Jill Grant. They're sharing with us. We're really working together, and some of the Greenbelt Council members are in our meetings, so they're sharing back and forth. And it's really, I think, very worthwhile to put some, and I do hope Bladensburg will put some into. I know that was at College Park in 10,000, and I know budgets are what they are, but any amount you can would be very good. But I do know now, I think Mayor Byrd or other council members will be in touch with you to answer any questions you might have. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo that as well. And I'm hoping that our council will support the effort, because while it is fantastic to have all the residents and stakeholders here submitting comments, it would go a very long way to have a formal legal opinion that includes Bladensburg, because there's just certain environmental law that as council members, we're not informed on. I'm just thinking, I don't believe we have any attorneys on the town council currently. So it would be different if we could do this in-house, but we just don't have that resource. And again, with the expertise in environmental law. So hopefully, if you residents agree with that, just email us as a town council and say, hey guys, I support you moving in this direction to get support from the law firm that Greenbelt is using. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out, but just let us know that this is something that you support. I think the council would be very open to hearing that kind of input. And I do want to applaud Greenbelt for leading that effort to secure a law firm, because they quickly understood giving the depth of opinion, legal opinion, and looking at case law on some of these things as opinions are submitted is just not in the tool house of most municipalities, especially a small town like Bladensburg. That's not something we have in-house. And so it is an expense. And so, as was stated, I did attend the College Park Council meeting in April. They voted to approve $10,000 for that initiative. We did also learned the Port Towns Sisters of Cottage City and Colmar Manor are considering, as well as Cheverly. So if everyone does a little bit, nobody has to do a lot. There are 27 municipalities in Prince George's County. So there's enough of us to do a little bit to raise this effort, because what I don't think everyone is paying attention to the fact that if we're able to show this level of unity, that's going to send a strong message to the developers that, you know what, this is probably not the.
Oh, you froze.
Uh-oh.
You froze. Yeah, she's spooling. She's coming back. There you are. Yeah, now we see you. Oh, I see. While the mayor's getting set up again, there's a question about what happens after the closing of comments. Is it a final decision? And then Kathy answered it. It all depends on who is in the team. I think maybe September. Now,
So Mayor James, this is Terry Williams. May I ask a question, please?
sure.
Sure. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
We can't hear you.
Oh, you're muted.
I do it all the time.
Okay, it looks like you're unmuted now.
Yeah, we heard you at first, but
Yeah, that's
something.
strange. You were just unmuted. Let me
Yeah.
see.
Hmm.
Okay, it looks like your mic is
Giving
open.
me
There she
There you
is.
go.
a green mic. Can
Now,
you hear me
now we
now?
can't hear you again. Now we can't hear you again. For some,
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we could hear you. We could hear you that last time. Yeah, I think if you turn the camera off, so it might work better now. It just might be competing for bandwidth.
So that we can share.
There you go. We can hear you now, Miss
Okay,
Williams.
I'll just email you. I'll just email you.
Okay, okay. So with that, we're at the end of our time, but I definitely appreciate everyone sticking around and getting the information, being so engaged in the conversation, asking great questions. So I'll work with marketing to get a follow-up email
So
out
what I
because
was
we do.
asking is if we
oh,
can
here
have
it
a
is.
copy. Can we have a copy of this recording?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we'll share the recording as well, and we'll also want to share the slides. And then also the resources that were in the initial email were a couple of the town halls that some of us have participated in previously, in English and Spanish. There's been quite a number, so we wanted to share those in case someone wants to take a look at those items. There's also the resources Ms. McCutcheon walked us to with the letters, the sample letters, the resource of the Stop the Maglev website, which has additional information that we walked through as we were talking about looking for details to help you plug into your comments as you submit those. We also have the link that will be shared to the online petition, but again, please don't let that take the place of submitting formal comments. Please, please, please make sure you get your comments in. And as was stated before, submitting them electronically will be the best bet because at least then you know they get in. When I sent mine, as was said before, I got the email confirmation right away, so I knew they were received. And then just one little tidbit I would share is I would draft them in Word or Notepad or something else, and then
Okay.
paste them into the section because once you start typing in that little window, it will allow your field to continue down, but you just can't see everything. And you just I'd proofread it and then copy and paste it in there. But again,
James, could I
yes,
say something before
yes.
to just make sure I answer about the closing of the comments? Again, I'll emphasize we are asking if you want to work in there because of so many problems with the draft environmental impact statement to ask for a supplemental, because that goes along with the question of what happens next. And what happens next is on their schedule, I think Kathy's right. I don't know the exact date, but I think it's about September, is what they're going to trudge on for is a final environmental impact statement, which would say which route. But we want to say you haven't answered so many questions and there are so many problems with this that you need to answer these questions before we can even assess this because too many gaps in there. And that's one key thing. So and that will say this can be a long haul because chances are, like many things, like you just saw with the purple line, with all these court challenges, may end up in court. And that's why it's so important to get your comments in there, because this can all be evidence of how the people feel. Because Northeast Maglev is pushing out there. All these people have signed petitions, and they're saying 2/3 of Maryland voters are in favor of this. And this is what they're saying from their polls. But of course, we know how polls go. But that's what they're saying. But they're saying this to House committees. They're saying this on a big base with a lot of money. So we really need to be able to counteract that. And the petition link too is right in here in the chat if you want to click over to that. And will you
Yep.
send me the chat too, Mayor James? Can you send the
Sure.
chat?
I'll
Okay.
save it, but let me just double check because
That's
I was on another program where they said it couldn't be saved. I don't know if that
okay.
was a state regulation or
Okay.
something. So let me check on that. But the
There was
last
the,
thing
yeah,
is I do recognize we have members of some of our HOAs or condo associations on. So even submitting comments on behalf of the homeowners that you represent,
yes,
since you all are on these boards, I think
yes.
would be very powerful as well.
By
But I'm
groups,
sorry,
yes,
Ms.
definitely
McCutcheon, yeah.
group submissions are very important, just like it is with the council letter or council submission on it. Group submissions are excellent because it's showing a lot of people coming together saying what they feel about it. And I think that there was one more quick thing, but I'm trying to see if I can find it here on the chat. Okay, there was oh yes, the question was, will I get this information if I'm on the e-newsletter blast? And I think that what Mayor James, I think your intention is everybody, the people on this and everybody, so it's spread wider with the recording. That's correct, isn't it?
Correct, yes. So
Okay,
we'll just get
great.
a blast out to the same list because we know there were folks who intended on being on and, things happen, life happens.
Oh,
So
that's
we
right.
will definitely share this. But I really appreciate everyone. Kathy, thank you for joining us. Susan, thank you as well. Great job with the presentation. Again, Councilmember Bowles, thank you so much for joining us. And with that, we will wrap up and look forward to following up. If you all need me, you know how to get a hold of me, tjames@bladensburgmd.gov. But I look forward to working with you all to get comments and have a wonderful evening.